And welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. This is Gabby Plum from Sensual Seniors. And today I'm talking once again with Tim Hopkins, who is going to tell us all about embodiment and Tantra and the courses that he's done and what he has learnt from them. So I'm going to go over to you now, Tim. So the first question is, you've done several Tantra and embodiment courses and trainings. What did they teach you?
So in 2014, I signed up for a year-long, well, it was 2013 actually, year-long Tantra training, which taught tantric principles and like really, really deep embodiment and what that meant by living more from your body and in the present moment. And I got so inspired by that and realized the huge benefits from it that I progressed and went on to do trainings after that, like more embodiment trainings and working with, I did massage trainings because I just so inspired after that year. It was a deep dive with 18 other people that were in the group, and it was a series of retreats. We used to meet about once every 6 weeks down in Melbourne. This was run by a Tantra teacher down there. And it was just it was a really amazing experience going so deep with another group of people and about practicing real honest authenticity.
So did you find when you say going deep with a lot of other people, I'm putting myself into some of those group things that I did a long time ago, and I perceive that what I discovered, I suppose, was that when other people started to open up, when other people started to share their experiences or their difficulties, it enabled me to be brave. Did you find the same sort of thing?
Yes, yeah. And having a safe environment to do that and getting to know people really well really helped for me, because if you can practice really opening up and practicing being authentically you instead of like we put this well, I used to put this mask on in a lot of my life,
Of course.
and it's so healing on a deep level to be able to just practice in a safe environment, being authentic and opening up about what's really going on. I found it deeply healing anyway. Letting go of stuff I'd pushed down in, unresolved emotion, and just opening up in a whole new way and going through these practices that we used to do. A lot of there was meditation involved and like practices on expanding your awareness, practices on deepening embodiment, and breath work with intention, which opened up my body in a whole way I wouldn't have been possible, to be honest.
I do
The
know what you mean. It's there's a sense of release, a sense of lightening when some of the things that you've been holding on to for so long. The difficulty that I have or had when I was doing that sort of work was recognizing the things that I had been holding on to, not realizing that I had been holding on to them tight, that I didn't want to let go of them. I didn't want anybody else to see them, things that I had terrible judgments about myself about, and areas in my life where I thought that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? And so those are the kind of things that were heavy, 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 until such time that I learned to let them go. So how did you go about finding those deepest issues, if you like, the deepest parts that you then built on to maintain that lack of authenticity to be built on to maintain the face that you put forward, which the face therefore that included all these things that have been going on in your life before. How did you work on that?
Well, the environment that was there, getting to know those people we got to know each other on such a deep level. And we did there was like a massage or a bodywork taught during the training, which taught you to go through breath work and just really deep relaxation to go deep into your body. And what I found was through this, I got in touch with stuff just came up. I had lots of emotion. Like I got rid of a lot of grief from my body.
Yeah.
Those processes, and also working with others around that. Like, and what I found was the more we deeply relax and then express everything fully in the moment, like let those unresolved stuff that we hold on to, let it up. It opened my body up in a whole different way. Like I had so much more sensitivity in my body. Just I think the fact of letting go of a lot of the tension allows for that. And the more I did that, the more my awareness around what was happening in my body and to be with it to be fully present with that on an ongoing basis. It was a really, really amazing training to build awareness around things like that.
So do you still do those courses? Do you still go to those training retreats or that sort of thing? Do you still do that?
Not as much. No, that I did that for probably about 4 years in my life, but I still practice embodiment on a daily basis. Like I have practice in the morning, like movement practices. I meditate. It become a very important part of my life, meditation. Like going within and just sitting there with my breath and just going fully within and seeing what's happening, how am I feeling today? What's going on with my energy, my body? And because another thing I learned from the training is the more your sensitivity in your body opens up, the more you get in touch with, for instance, when you have a difficult feeling coming up, and instead of then, it becomes a conscious process. Instead of, if it's an uncomfortable one and you're in the wrong environment, instead of just pushing that down and blocking it, just to fully feel it in the moment and just watch it. Doesn't mean it has to take over, but just having the awareness about being in the moment and feeling it and letting it be okay, letting it express and just staying present with that and centered. It's been a huge change through that.
Does that go for things like self-doubt, where maybe you're embarking on something new, a new job? I mean, you're an electrician in your work, perhaps taking on something that is bigger than you would normally take. Do you have a sort of a self-doubt thing that comes out that then you have to deal with in some way? And if so, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, that's more about the mind, but building, like expanding your awareness and becomes a practice of watching the mind as well. Like catching those thoughts, the self-doubt thoughts when they come up and questioning, like, is that really true? Is that I found is an amazing practice.
Yes.
So
Well, who does that belong to?
That's what Tantra teaches.
Right.
To just be fully present and in the moment. Because your thoughts tend to take you over and you become unconscious.
Yes.
Especially if emotion comes up and you'll be acting out things that may have been from your childhood that have been sitting in your body. If you can stay deeply present to it then it can make huge, just that practice can really build your awareness over time
So
and make you
can I expand
aware of what you're thinking more.
can I expand on the idea that when you have the sort of thoughts that are self-doubt, and yes, we're talking about what your mind does to you and how your mind can really want to control what you do. Can you just go into a little bit more how when you look at that and you recognize this, is this true? Who does this belong to? Is these doubts, are they even mine? Um, can you do you have a process for that, or is it just simply meditation and going within and looking at it and seeing that it is a ruse?
Just being present and being aware of what you're thinking, really. And a lot of that stuff falls away. Like we have thousands of thoughts every day. And once you become aware of what you're thinking on a daily basis, it's horrifying, to be honest.
It certainly is.
So, so it's like it's not it sounds like a hard practice, but it's a practice that's been really beneficial to my life because once you're conscious and stay present to your thoughts, um, it just opens your awareness around, things you tell yourself that aren't helpful in interactions and stuff.
So can
And,
I
and
just,
you can change those.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your mind's a wonderful tool for things like if we want to find the post office or if we want to go shopping. But it's when our mind becomes the boss, when our mind starts to hijack us. That's what the practice is around, becoming more aware and being the boss of your mind in a way
Yeah.
is the fact using it as a tool and not letting it take over.
So is that a sort of we talk about vulnerability and we've talked about that before, and I'm hearing and feeling as if part of learning to be vulnerable with others, if you like, being open to others, but there is that element of being vulnerable to yourself, which is also, I think, very valuable, because if you're vulnerable to yourself, it's when you hear those self-doubts that you know that have come from your childhood, or when people said to me, "Oh, don't be ridiculous, you can't do that. What are you doing? You don't be stupid. You can't possibly don't be stupid." I love that. I just love that. How many times as parents do we say that to our children without realizing what that does to them? How many times was that said to me, "Don't be stupid"? And I can remember my mother had a particular way of saying the word stupid. She said stupid, stupid, like this. And it just woo whack. So that sort of vulnerability, when you're willing to be vulnerable with others, does that automatically translate to being vulnerable with yourself? Or is it the reverse?
Well, I think it's about learning to become your authentic self. And like vulnerability, like a lot of people look at vulnerability as a weakness, but I consider it, what I know now, I consider it a real strength.
Hmm.
But it's a scary place to be, especially for a man. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be talking about things. It just really it was a struggle for me for a long time, but it's been so freeing in my life. And I think one area it really helps with, it helps you let go of stuff you've been holding on to. And I had so much armoring built around my heart around,
Yeah.
trusting in relationships and stuff. And it's really helped to start to let go of some of that
Mm.
armoring and open my heart more. And that process in itself then allows me to open my heart to myself,
Yeah.
improve my relationship with myself, which really, our relationship with ourselves has so much importance on how we relate to others in our life.
Of
You know what I
course.
mean? And the more I can open my heart and find that deep self-love, then that flows through into all areas of my life.
So with that, and I'm what's being triggered for me as we're talking is the sensation of being willing to be wrong. Now, many years ago, I learned that there was a great power in being wrong, or not necessarily being wrong, but being willing to be wrong. And to allow yourself, so somebody's having a go at you about something, and there's a part of you that's saying, actually, this is not right. But that same part of you is saying, well, if I let this person have their point of view, then I will deflate the wind in the sails of that individual, if you like. So being willing to say, you know what, you're absolutely right. I hadn't realized that. Look, you're right, and I'm willing to have a look at that. Which then takes all the wind out of the argument, whatever the argument might be. But that is also a sense of being vulnerable. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, learning to appreciate the other person's point of view and being open to the other person's point of view, because we really live life through our beliefs. We have like a filter. Everyone lives life through their own filter. That's what I like to say. And that
What?
filter
Say
is the
that again.
beliefs.
Say that again. Your third
A
eye,
filter.
your third eye filter.
No, a filter. We look at life through a filter.
Okay, sorry, I thought you
What I
said.
mean by that, the filter's made up of our beliefs, our points of view, what we've learnt and believed to be correct. And through that, we can judge others. You know, we sort of think it's like when you're a teenager, you know everything in life. You can't be told everything. At least I never could be.
Yeah.
But just being open to listening to others' points of view and questioning your beliefs and saying, well, is that really true? You know what I mean? Like the other person, there's a ring of truth there. And even if the other person isn't right, it's letting them be, that's their point of view. You know, it doesn't have to affect us. As long as we're in our own presence and then questioning, our own beliefs and not and learning to not be so judgmental through that.
Yeah.
We learn when we grow and our horizons expand because our beliefs change and we become more open-minded, which is a beautiful trait in itself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We used to have an expression which was, well, that's just an interesting point of view. Um, which, if you're talking to somebody and they're expressing their points of view and you don't necessarily agree with them, but that doesn't mean to say that you have to have an argument. It can be something, well, that is just a very interesting point of view. And it is neither right nor wrong, nor good nor bad. It's just an interesting point of view. So that, I think that whole sense of that, the vulnerability, I discovered a wonderful thing a long time ago. I had a very bad car accident down on the Gold Coast, and I actually rolled a caravan. I just had bought a new caravan and was towing it with the same vehicle, which was a big Land Cruiser. But in actual fact, the Land Cruiser wasn't strong enough to pull this 26-foot caravan, and it rolled. It swung away and it rolled on the Gold Coast Highway, which closed the Gold Coast Highway for about 3 hours. I was not popular, and you can imagine. And it was I wasn't scared. I just thought, well, this is an interesting thing. What's going to happen now? But eventually, of course, I came into the insurance issues, and I had to go to the police. And I said to the police, this was about I would have been just 55 or something. That was nearly 20 years. God, it's nearly 20 years ago. That's scary. I said to the policeman, look, I realized that I'm just a silly old woman who bought something on the say-so of a salesperson. And I believed that salesperson that I was going to be able to tow that caravan with this vehicle. And I realized that I didn't do my research and I didn't do my homework, and I'm just a silly old bat. And he
Well,
passed.
you're not.
He
That's
passed.
a self-judgment.
He passed it through to the insurance company, and the insurance company paid up. And it paid up quite reasonable sums of money. It was about 35 grand for each vehicle, the caravan and the car. But I felt it was because I had made myself vulnerable. I hadn't been arguing with the police about, what was right and what was wrong. I just said, I'm a silly old daft bat who bought a story from somebody I shouldn't. I should have done more research. It's all my own fault. And they passed it through. And that was one of a lesson of mine to understand the power of vulnerability.
Beautiful. Mm.
Life's experiences, eh? Okay, so let's just have a look. I want to know how all that sort of training and teaching and understanding and recognition of the importance. Oh, that's not the word, is it? The importance of understanding yourself. How does that relate to your sex life, and how does that relate to sex?
Well, it just opens you up more. Like I found so much more sensitivity in my body. I used to hold so much more tension, and tension in itself sort of it turns the dial down on your sensitivity.
Yes, of course it does. Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
tantric principles themselves, like about being fully present and in the moment, like with your partner, instead of thinking of, am I doing this right? What's this look like? What's my, does she like my body? Letting go of the mind and just being fully in the experience with your partner and fully feeling into every moment, like letting this, the nerve endings open up in your skin, and the experience can just go to a whole new level, and slowing everything down. I think often, sexual interactions, I know my early ones, they were very quite frenzied, and there was lots of tension and intensity and hard thrusting, and that sort of thing it can be very, it can shut the body down, especially for, for a female partner.
Mm.
And so learning like to slow everything down, and then not having an orgasm as a goal, and that's the other thing. We tend to have this goal of orgasm in sex, and then really, having a goal can tend to bring you faster to that place, and not really enjoying the journey along the way. Just enjoy the amazing sensations, and like really opening to your partner, like feeling your partner's heart. The more sensitivity, that's another thing I learned from Tess, the more sensitivity you can open up in your body, okay, then the more you can feel your energy, you can feel your partner's energy. It gives you clues as to where they are in the experience, and how you can open that experience even further. And like I say, just enjoy the journey. And if an orgasm happens, it's awesome. You know what I mean? And the more we can really relax and fully, like, deeply breathe in time with your partner, and let go of tension in your body, because the tension, as we're approaching orgasm, if we're having sort of, your normal frenetic sex, tension, your breathing increases in intensity, and your tension tend to hold more tension, which doesn't allow the energy in your groin to expand and move into your whole body, which that's really how a full body orgasm can creep up on you, by being
Yeah.
really, really more relaxed and opening up your breath, really opening up your autonomic nervous system, and letting that energy as it builds, expand into your whole body. And you'll be, I know you'll be amazed at what you find exploring that pathway. I know I was.
So can I ask you then, I know you still do some training on this. I think you're still practicing or training, teaching other people the tantric principles and things like that. Are you still working with people?
I do, yes, I do body work. I do like a type of tantric massage, and that's around helping people get in touch with a deeply relaxed place while being fully present and having intention and awareness in the body. Um, so I don't teach as such, but apart from the fact that I rave on about about the whole thing to anyone I meet, because I just think it's so important.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
mm,
so can I ask you, for people who are listening to this podcast, um, of this interview, how can your average Donny citizen, your average person, how can that be something that they can start themselves? How can they begin on that process by themselves without necessarily having to go and doing a training? Is there something that they can do for themselves to begin to learn this ability?
yeah, sure. It's like learning anything new. You just have to practice. It's lots of practice.
So what's your
Just say that, for instance, you could say, if you're interested this with your partner, to practice something different. It feels strange for the start until you learn the benefits, and it becomes more normal the more you practice it. So if you decide this is something you'd want to open more in your life, you could say, you could have dates with your partner during the week where you know that you had no distractions, your phones are turned off, the kids are at their auntie's or with grandfather weekend or something, you know what I mean? Just where you can totally devote yourself to trying these different things, and that just even just sitting together. There's a position in tantra called yab yum, which is where basically your
oh, it's
the
your legs.
female partner crosses, yeah, sits straddles the male, and then you just hold each other, um, feel into your hearts, and just you can even like eye gaze is an amazingly intimate experience.
Mm.
Just looking deeply into your partner's eyes and breathing in tune with each other, just slowing right down.
Yeah, I remember Yab Yum.
Practicing things like that, having a nice environment, having some candles and dim the lights
Comfy
and some
cushions under your
people.
bum. When you get older, darling, you have to have comfy cushions under your bum.
Oh, yeah, I mean that can have, it can be the same at any age, really. Yeah, making sure you're comfortable and your body's really relaxed. I think
Mm.
that's the important thing. And just, it's like any practice, there's lots and lots of information on this
Mm.
online. It's so easy to find information nowadays. It's just having that, I think it's just opening to something new and deciding, that sounds like good. I'd like to try that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how, that would be in my life. I'd like to try something different. I mean, we can get stuck in ruts, can't we? Like we have the same patterns for years, and you know what I mean? And it's like our comfort zone, which can be very boring. You know what I mean? And like just trying things like going outside of your comfort zone, and just you might surprise yourself.
Oh, yeah.
I know I did. I know I did. Mm.
Yes, I know.
And
Absolutely.
it's so deeply healing to your nervous system. Like learning this deep relaxation, it'll flow into all areas of your life. You'll be a calmer person. You'll be more centered. You'll feel your heart more. It'll open up the interactions with others.
There's a sense of when you take on something new, something that I tend to do all the time. I'm very keen and excited and excitable about taking on new things. And there's always, you know me well enough, Tim, to know what I do. So if there's this element of the heart going ticka ticka ticka, really, really beating fast, and you realize that part of you is apprehensive, anticipatory, and basically scared when you're taking something large on. And then there's the thing that comes up to me is, well, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I know that's somebody else's words and somebody else's book. But well, feel it, know that it's not necessarily yours, because there's a lot of people out there trying to do different things and feeling very nervous about it. So it can be somebody else's that you're picking up, because we're all empathetic. All of us are very highly sensitive to other people's emotions and thoughts and feelings. And but
we are when we allow ourselves to be in touch with
yes,
that through. Yes.
yeah. But recognizing when you do pick up those things from other people, and recognizing that they're not necessarily your own points of view. I think we talked about the throwing the cigarette out of the car situation, where I bought somebody else's point of view big time, and recognizing that it wasn't my point of view at all. So understanding that, you're apprehensive about something, you're nervous about something, but what you really are is excited about it. So, understanding that apprehension and nervousness and all that sort of stuff is basically excitement, because we are beings that enjoy learning new things and doing new things and actually having fun doing it. So can I ask you one last question? If you were asked to do a course on exactly what we've talked about, embodiment and tantric beingness, would you be willing to do that? I'm putting you on the spot now.
To run a course.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm always open to that. I haven't really explored that area too much yet. But yeah, I'm always open to
Well,
things like that.
let's
And
take
it's like you were talking about earlier, like it's scary to try new things. And I love the way you turn that around and you virtually reframed it. And instead of it being scary, it was exciting. Like it's still the same type of feelings in your body because it's quite an intensity, but you're reframing that and in a more of a positive
Thank you.
way.
Well, now, Tim, we've got 2 minutes left, so I think I'm going to sort of wrap up basically by saying thank you very much for being with me again today. And I think this has been very enlightening and very helpful for a lot of people who could really use this teaching. And I would love to explore the possibility of doing a short course or a workshop or something like that. Let's talk about it and let's see whether this is something we could maybe get going. And it could be something that would really help other people to be able to be as enlightened, if you like, with your embodiment and everything else. And I would love to say and use the words better at sex. I don't know whether that's something I should be allowed to say, but wouldn't it be marvelous if both men and women could learn some techniques in order to make them feel as if they were better at doing it?
I don't matter better, like as in performance, but just to get more enjoyment from it.
Yes, exactly.
Practice, like there's a whole spectrum, of things around sexuality and being open to new experiences.
Yeah.
And practicing, embodiment. Like it's really worked in my life, and I'd love other people to feel they got something from trying that as well.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about, you and I will talk about it privately in a small room somewhere, in a small dark room somewhere. We'll have a chat about it and see what we can do. But for the moment, I want to say thank you very much, Tim, and have a lovely day.